The night was particularly dark at Sunnyvale Ranch. Lucy gazed out the window, her eyes scanning the field she knew so well, but which now seemed to hold secrets never before imagined. Thunder, the horse that had always been her most faithful companion, was restless in the barn, whinnying intermittently, as if sensing something human eyes couldn't see. Kyle, her son, entered the kitchen carrying the mysterious metal device found near the shed. His fingers examined it carefully, trying to decipher its origin and purpose. "Mom," he said, breaking the silence, "this doesn't seem to be something common. It's a sophisticated tracker, not one of those cheap ones you can easily find." Lucy sighed. Her farmer's intuition, developed over decades of managing that property, told her something was about to happen. The recent events couldn't be mere coincidence. Anthony, her husband, entered the kitchen with a worried expression. He had spoken with John, one of the oldest employees, who was visibly shaken by the strange occurrences. "The tourists aren't who they say they are," Anthony muttered. "John told me he overheard a strange conversation last night, something about confirming the location and next phase." Lucy felt a shiver run down her spine. Sunnyvale Ranch had always been her sanctuary, her refuge against the outside world. Now it seemed that world was about to invade her most intimate territory. The metal device on the table seemed to weigh more than it actually did. It was as if it held secrets that would soon be revealed. "We need to investigate," Kyle said, breaking the moment of tension. "We can't just sit around waiting for something to happen." Lucy looked at her son. His eyes, once as tranquil as the green fields of Virginia, now shone with a determination that went beyond fear. "You're right," she replied, "but we need to be cautious. We don't know what we're dealing with." That night, as the ranch slept, something moved in the shadows. Discreet footsteps, muffled whispers, calculated movements. The first piece of a complex puzzle was about to be moved. What did those strange tourists really want? What was the significance of that tracker? And why was Thunder, the most disciplined horse that had ever existed, so restless? The answers would come, but not before completely transforming the lives of everyone at Sunnyvale Ranch. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll continue. Dawn arrived laden with a dense fog, typical of the mountains of Virginia. Lucy woke up earlier than usual, her senses sharpened by the tension of the previous night. Anthony was already on the porch, observing the fields with a strong cup of coffee in his hands. "I sent John to check the property boundaries," he said, as he noticed his wife's presence. "Something tells me we need to understand what's happening." Kyle joined his parents, bringing the tracker in a plastic bag. "I'm going to take it to a friend who works with technology in Richmond," he proposed. "He can tell us exactly what it is." The ranch routine continued, but there was a different atmosphere. The tourists circulated normally, taking photos, participating in morning activities, but something seemed out of place. One of them, a middle-aged man named Richard, showed an excessive interest in the ranch structure, asking subtle questions about the property. During breakfast, a casual conversation revealed an intriguing detail. One of the tourists, a blonde woman named Hannah, mentioned knowing the region for a long time. Her comments were too precise for someone who was there just as a visitor. "Do you have any idea how long this ranch has existed?" she asked, seemingly unpretentious. Lucy felt an instinct of alertness. The question seemed more like an investigation than mere curiosity. John, the employee who had been acting strange in recent weeks, avoided eye contact. His nervous behavior didn't go unnoticed by Kyle, who decided to investigate. "Do you know something?" he asked discreetly when they were alone in the barn. John hesitated. His eyes revealed a mixture of fear and something else, a secret that seemed to want to escape. "Some secrets," John murmured, "should remain buried." The phrase hung in the air, laden with mystery. Thunder, the horse, whinnied in the background, as if agreeing with that enigmatic statement. That afternoon, a mysterious envelope arrived by mail, with no return address, simply addressed to Lucy, Sunnyvale Ranch. When opened, it contained only an old photograph of the property and a phone number. What did that image mean? Who would send such a document? And what was John's role in this story? The pieces of the puzzle were slowly beginning to move, promising revelations that would forever change life at Sunnyvale Ranch. Kyle didn't hesitate. As soon as they received the mysterious envelope, he dialed the indicated number. To his surprise, an elderly female voice answered. "I've been waiting for your call," said the lady, who identified herself as Mrs. Thompson, a former resident of the area. The conversation revealed the first fragments of a family secret. Decades ago, Sunnyvale Ranch originally belonged to a different family, the Wilsons, a family that had mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only rumors and speculations. Mrs. Thompson recounted that the Wilsons had a complex history involving land disputes and controversial businesses, something related to a significant inheritance that was never fully clarified. "You have no idea what's buried in those lands," Mrs. Thompson whispered before hanging up, leaving Kyle intrigued. Meanwhile, at the ranch, the strange events intensified. The cameras installed by Anthony began to capture subtle movements during the night, shadows that moved quickly, figures that appeared and disappeared in seconds. Richard, the suspicious tourist, began to ask more direct questions about the ranch's topography, especially about a specific area near the old barn. Hannah, the blonde tourist, seemed increasingly interested in the property's old files. Her insistence on examining historical documents didn't go unnoticed. At night, Thunder became more agitated than ever. The horse seemed to want to communicate something, pacing back and forth in the stable, whinnying in an anguished manner. Lucy decided to investigate personally. Searching through the family's old archives, she found an intriguing document. A map of the property with an area marked in red, without any explanation. The area corresponded exactly to the location where Richard showed so much interest. What was hidden there? What was the real reason for the presence of those tourists? And what was the secret that Mrs. Thompson had mentioned? The questions accumulated, creating an increasingly complex web of mystery around Sunnyvale Ranch. The tension at Sunnyvale Ranch increased every day. Kyle decided to investigate the Wilsons' history more deeply, using his contacts in Richmond. His tech-savvy friend had analyzed the tracker and confirmed something surprising. The device was state-of-the-art, normally used in intelligence operations. Meanwhile, John, the mysterious employee, began to show signs that he was about to reveal something important. One night, after a few sips of whiskey, he approached Anthony with watery eyes. "There's something you need to know," he mumbled. "Something that happened many years ago." The story John began to tell was complex. The Wilsons weren't just an ordinary family. Rumors suggested they had connections to important businesses in Virginia involving mining and land. Hannah and Richard, the tourists, began to act more suspiciously. One morning, Kyle caught them talking in low voices near the location marked on the old map. They didn't know they were being observed. "We need to confirm the exact location," Richard whispered. "Time is running out," Hannah replied. Lucy decided to take action. She called a family meeting to discuss the events. That's when Kyle revealed the research he had done on the Wilsons. The family discovered that the Wilsons had a secret literally buried on the property, something related to a valuable document that could completely change the history of the region. Thunder, the horse, remained agitated. It was as if the animal could sense the proximity of something important about to be revealed. The following night, an unexpected event occurred. During the early hours, the cameras captured movement near the area marked on the old map. Someone was discreetly digging. Anthony and Kyle decided to investigate personally. Armed only with flashlights and determination, they silently approached the site. What would they find? What was the real secret buried at Sunnyvale Ranch? And what was the role of Hannah, Richard, and John in this story? The answers were about to emerge, promising to completely transform everyone's lives. The night was particularly dark when Anthony and Kyle approached the excavation site. The moon, covered by thick clouds, created an atmosphere of mystery and tension. Thunder in the stable whinnied nervously, as if sensing what was about to happen. Hannah and Richard didn't notice the approach of the ranch owners. They continued digging, using sophisticated equipment that seemed more suited to an archaeological excavation than a simple night search. "It's here," Hannah whispered, "exactly where the map indicated." Kyle and Anthony exchanged a glance. The moment of confrontation had arrived. "Can you explain what you're doing?" Anthony asked, his firm voice cutting through the night's silence. Hannah and Richard were startled, turning quickly. For a moment, they seemed to hesitate between fleeing or explaining. It was then that John appeared, emerging from the shadows. His expression was one of relief mixed with apprehension. "It's time for the truth," he said, breaking the silence. The story that followed was more complex than anyone could have imagined. Hannah was actually a descendant of the Wilsons, a family that had lost their lands decades ago in a complex legal dispute. Richard was an investigator hired to recover a historical document that would prove the legitimacy of the original property. The document in question was an old property title, signed by a Virginia governor in the 19th century, which had been hidden on the ranch during a family dispute. This paper could completely reverse the land ownership. Lucy, who had discreetly followed the group, heard everything. Her expression was one of surprise, but also of understanding. "You could have simply talked to us," she said. The document was finally unearthed. It was fragile but still legible. Its yellowed pages held a secret that had remained hidden for generations. But the real surprise was about to be revealed. John had an even deeper connection to the story. He was, in fact, an unrecognized son of one of the former Wilson owners. Thunder, the horse, approached at that moment, as if he were a silent witness to that revelation. What would happen now? How would this discovery change everyone's life at Sunnyvale Ranch? The night still held more secrets to be revealed. Dawn arrived laden with tension. The family gathered in the ranch's main room seemed like a mosaic of emotions: surprise, curiosity, expectation. Hannah explained the family history in detail. The Wilsons had lost their lands decades ago due to a series of poorly resolved legal disputes. The document found could completely rewrite the property's history. "We didn't come to take your lands," Hannah said, surprising everyone. "We just want recognition and historical justice." John, visibly moved, revealed his true identity. He was the son of one of the former Wilsons, given up for adoption during a troubled period in the family. His presence on the ranch was not a coincidence, but a destiny that had brought him back to his roots. Lucy, with her characteristic wisdom, proposed a solution that no one expected. "What if we turned this into something positive for everyone?" she asked. The proposal was audacious. Create a partnership that would unite the two families, transforming Sunnyvale Ranch into a larger project that would preserve history and ensure everyone's future. Richard, the investigator, presented documents that proved Hannah's story. The property title, although old, had legal validity, but instead of using this as an instrument of dispute, everyone seemed willing to find a collaborative solution. Thunder, the horse, circled near the porch, as if he were a silent witness to that historic moment. Kyle was the first to speak after Lucy's proposal. "A foundation," he suggested. "We could create a foundation that preserves the ranch's history, transforming it into a cultural and memory space." The idea quickly gained strength. Sunnyvale Ranch would become not just a place of agricultural production, but a center for preserving Virginia's historical memory. John, finally finding his family and his place, would be a fundamental part of this new project. Hannah would see the dream of recovering her family's history being realized in a positive way. But something was still to be revealed. A secret guarded for generations waited to be discovered. What else did Sunnyvale Ranch hold in its lands? What other stories were about to come to light? If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll continue. The decision to create the foundation brought a new dynamic to Sunnyvale Ranch. Old documents began to be organized, stories were rescued, and a rural museum project began to take shape. During the process of organizing the archives, Kyle discovered something unexpected. Among Hannah's documents, there was an old, partially damaged letter that mentioned a family treasure, not a treasure of monetary value, but something of historical and sentimental significance. "Look at this," he said, showing the letter to the family. The document spoke of a set of personal objects, jewelry, documents, and a specific medallion. That would have been hidden somewhere on the property during a period of family conflict in the early 20th century. John moved, recognized details from the letter. His grandmother had mentioned similar stories on her deathbed, but no one had ever given credit. Anthony decided to do a complete sweep of the area indicated in the document. Using modern detection equipment, he began to investigate the locations mentioned in the letter. Thunder, the horse, seemed especially restless in those days. His behavior indicated that something important was about to be revealed. During an excavation near the old barn, something metallic was found. It was a metal box apparently sealed for decades. The moment of opening was surrounded by expectation. Everyone gathered: Lucy, Anthony, Kyle, Hannah, John, and Richard. When the box was finally opened, what they found exceeded all expectations. Inside were not only jewelry and documents, but something that could completely change the understanding of local history. A set of letters, photographs, and a diary that revealed historical connections never before imagined. One of the documents seemed especially important. It was a record that indicated a connection between the Wilson families and Lucy's family, much earlier than anyone could have imagined. "This means that—" Hannah began, her voice trembling. But before she could finish, a new element would be revealed. A secret that had remained hidden for generations was about to come to light. What would those documents reveal? What secret connections existed between the families? Sunnyvale Ranch held more mysteries than anyone imagined. Hannah discovered that her great-grandmother had had a secret relationship with a member of Lucy's family, something completely unknown until that moment. This forbidden romance had been carefully kept secret for generations, with documents and letters being hidden to avoid scandal. "It's incredible," said Hannah, her trembling hands holding the old letters. "Our families have always been closer than we imagined." John, moved, realized that his own family history was much more complex than he thought. The diary revealed details about his true lineage, connecting him not only to the Wilsons, but also to the history of Sunnyvale Ranch itself. Kyle was the first to suggest that this discovery should be transformed into a historical documentation project. The foundation they were creating now gained an even deeper meaning, not just preservation but family reconnection. Thunder, the horse, remained close, as if he were a silent witness to that revelation. His strange behavior in previous weeks now made perfect sense. The animal seemed to have sensed the importance of that secret. Richard, the investigator, confirmed the authenticity of the documents. Each page, each letter, represented a fragment of a story that had remained hidden for decades. One of the most impressive letters revealed a shocking detail: a secret family agreement that had been made in the early 20th century involving land, inheritance rights, and a pact of silence. That extended for generations. Lucy looked at Anthony, her eyes full of tears. "Everything we've lived," she said, "had a much deeper history than we imagined." The revelation brought not only surprise, but a sense of reconciliation. Families that were once seen as separate now discovered intimate and deep ties. But something was still to be revealed. A final secret waited to be discovered, promising to completely transform everyone's understanding of their family history. What else did Sunnyvale Ranch hold? What other mysteries were about to be unraveled? The discovery of the documents had completely transformed the dynamics of Sunnyvale Ranch. The foundation was taking shape, bringing together history, memory, and family reconciliation. During a meeting to organize the documents, Mrs. Thompson, the lady who had made the initial phone call, was invited to help clarify some historical points. Her arrival would be the trigger for the final revelation. Upon seeing the letters and documents, her face completely changed. Something she had been keeping for decades needed to be revealed. "There's one last secret," she said, her voice trembling, "a secret that will change everything you think you know." The story Mrs. Thompson began to tell was complex. Decades. Ergo, a secret agreement had been made between the families. An agreement that involved not just land, but a promise of mutual protection that transcended generations. The medallion found in the metal box was the key to this story. More than an object, it represented an ancient family pact, sealed in a moment of deep need. Hannah discovered that her own existence was linked to this agreement. Her parents had been protected by members of Lucy's family during a turbulent period, something never before revealed. John finally understood why he had been given up for adoption. It was part of a larger family protection plan, a strategy to preserve his lineage in a time of great conflicts. Thunder, the horse, who had been a silent witness to all this history, finally seemed calm. His erratic behavior in previous weeks was an instinctive response to the proximity of the revelation. The original agreement provided for the creation of something greater than a simple property. It was a project to preserve memory, local culture, and family history. The foundation they were creating wasn't just a project, but the fulfillment of a promise made generations ago. Kyle was the first to speak after Mrs. Thompson's revelation. "So everything that happened," he said, "was part of a bigger plan." Lucy smiled. Sunnyvale Ranch had always been more than just a place. It was a guardian of stories, memories, and family connections, but there was still one last detail to be revealed. A secret so deep that it would completely change everyone's understanding of their history. What else did Sunnyvale Ranch hold? What final surprise was about to be discovered? The last revelation came unexpectedly, like a whisper that crossed generations. Mrs. Thompson brought with her a final document, kept for decades in a personal safe. It was an old handwritten will that revealed the true purpose of all this history. The document was not just a family record, but a manifesto of hope. Written by the original Wilson patriarch, it revealed that Sunnyvale Ranch had been conceived as a project far beyond a simple rural property. "This land," the document said, "does not belong to a family but to an idea of preservation, of memory, of human connection." The final revelation was surprising. The ranch had originally been planned as a refuge, a place of rebuilding for families who lost their roots during periods of conflict in Virginia. John, Hannah, Lucy, Anthony, and Kyle listened in absolute silence. Thunder, the horse, remained nearby like a final witness to that story. The original project envisioned that the property would be a place of reconciliation, where fragmented stories could be brought together, where separated families could find their way back to each other. Each secret discovered, each document found, each story revealed, was part of a larger cycle of reconnection. The foundation they had created was not just a project, but the fulfillment of a destiny traced decades ago. "We are all part of something bigger," said Mrs. Thompson, her eyes shining with the wisdom of someone who knows deep stories. Kyle looked at the property through the window. Sunnyvale Ranch was no longer just a place, but a symbol of hope, of reconciliation, of living memory. Hannah held John's hand, both now understanding the true meaning of belonging. Lucy embraced Anthony. Silent tears streamed down her face, tears of understanding, of love, of connection. Thunder softly neighed outside, as if he could finally rest, having fulfilled his role as a silent guardian of so many secrets. The story was complete, the cycle was closed,